Really looking forward to our co-main event this weekend between Ovince Saint Preux, former title challenger, UFC 197 against Jon Jones, fighting with a broken arm. The guy is an absolute legend at light heavyweight, and we should give him the respect he deserves. I know we've renamed Choke from Von Flue to Von Preux. The guy can get it done in all sorts of different methods, and he's basically taking on, and this is a stretch, a younger version of himself. When I see Jamahal Hill in that cage from that long southpaw stance, whipping those left kicks at guys' bodies, at their legs, wherever, it's like watching an old Ovince Saint Preux. They do a lot of the same things. Jamahal Hill, I don't know where his ground game's at these days, but I can tell you that Ovince Saint Preux is one of the sneakiest fighters once he gets onto the ground. Just ask Tyson Pedro with that straight arm lock that Ovince Saint Preux kind of weaseled his way into. And that's the thing. Ovince Saint Preux is such a weird, sneaky fighter. He gets cracked and you think he's totally knocked out, and then the next minute he's choking you out. He's doing something crazy. Just ask Yushin Okami. Overall, again, Ovince Saint Preux, tons of experience in the cage. Former Strike Force vet. He's been with the UFC for the longest time. He's fought for a belt in the past. Jamahal Hill, this is only his third UFC fight, coming in off Contender Series. Had a huge win over Darko Stozic in his debut. And then he took on my guy, Klidson Fajes de Abreu. And he won the fight, and he finished him in the first round. That fight, it's a win on some sites. I have it as a win. I have him as 8-0. You might see on the UFC broadcast he's 7-0 because that fight was supposed to be overturned to a no contest because Jamahal Hill tested positive for, as Stephen A. Smith would say, Matt, the weed.
It's a dumb rule, but it is a rule.
It's a rule. So Jamahal Hill lost his win because of the weed. Now he's taking on Ovince Saint Preux. And really, he didn't lose any standing in the UFC. He still gained off a win like that.
100%. And this is a really fun fight. And I do need to give you credit. Craig's been calling for these two guys to fight for a minute now because the comparison is quite easy to make between Jamahal Hill and Ovince Saint Preux. When you watch a lot of MMA, Jamahal Hill does have that kind of upright stance like OSP. I have a bit of an X factor in this fight. Ovince Saint Preux is terrible at fighting southpaws, and I don't just mean bad at it. He gets hit with left straights like it's going out of style, and there are a bunch of different examples you can draw from. Dominic Reyes didn't actually get the knockout win, but a lot of people will remember Dominic Reyes probably should have knocked out OSP in their fight, because in the last second, cracks him with left straight, puts him down. Tyson Pedro, the exact same punch. And if guys like that are able to have success, now, I'm not putting Jamahal Hill in that Dominic Reyes area, because of course Dominic Reyes, we all know how good he is now. Jamahal Hill is more than capable of landing those very similar strikes. And with the Tyson Pedro fight, I do think that's an important one to bring up because OSP's been in this position a few times where he's fighting top 15 guys and he's not really getting it done against like the top 10 in the division anymore. But the second they give him an unranked guy, he just runs over them like it's nothing. And we've seen this a few times now. The Michael Oleksiejczuk fight is one that's always going to stand out in my mind because I was like, Oleksiejczuk's going to murder OSP. And he just immediately gets him into the Saint Preux choke. So OSP has that weird like Jar Jar Binks style about him to where he'll just kind of stumble into wins sometimes. And it is really fun to watch as a fan because you know when you watch OSP fight, something weird's about to happen. And it's not always a positive thing. Sometimes it can be negative.
Yeah, you got to pump the brakes a little bit because something weird could end up like his fight with Ben Rothwell, but continue.
Exactly. Now, in the Ben Rothwell fight, that was an interesting one because OSP'd. He put his back against the cage. He had a very low output. But every time he hit Ben Rothwell, and Ben Rothwell is a big heavyweight with a very good chin, every time he'd crack him, he would put him down. And it was really frustrating because OSP, you could tell he had the power advantage, he had the technique advantage. He just didn't throw the volume along with it. He would hurt Ben Rothwell, he'd stumble him, he'd drop him, and then Ben Rothwell would just kind of move his way back into the fight, and just through throwing volume was able to win rounds. Jamahal Hill will play the OSP game with OSP. He'll throw the single shots with him. It's just with Jamahal Hill, I know what shots I'm going to get, and I know what stage of his career he is at. He is the prospect on his way up, and I know OSP's been in this position before, and he's a great deterrent, if you will, for those prospects. I don't know if this is the fight. I do like the kicks of Jamahal Hill. I like the inside leg kick that's going to be open on OSP, but even me saying all this stuff and all these complimentary things towards Jamahal Hill, OSP can knock out anyone at any moment of any fight, even when he's lost, 2 rounds and 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Like the Corey Anderson fight's a great example too. When he throws, he hurts Corey Anderson. He puts him down, he drops him. And then Corey Anderson works his way back into the fight. And then the fight, of course, ends with a super vicious head kick KO from OSP. So OSP on his best day looks like he could challenge Jan Blachowicz for the title, and OSP on his worst day looks like he could barely win on the Bellator prelims. So it's just so hard to gauge where he is going to be at this stage in his career.
It is difficult. I mean, if you look at OSP's last fight against Alonzo Menafield, it was one of those cat and mouse, wait, time it, boom, you finish Alonzo Menafield. It was a great win for OSP. Before that, again, the Ben Rothwell fight. And if you look at his overall body of work, he's alternated wins and losses recently. Before that, 2 losses to Nikita Krylov, he gets submitted, and then the loss to Dominic Reyes, where he got out-volumed, which is a problem against a guy like Jamahal Hill, who will play the volume game. The one thing that I worry about with Jamahal Hill, Darko Stosic was able to take him down time and time again. Now, did Jamahal Hill pop back up and win that fight and ultimately see you later, Darko Stosic from the UFC? He did. Overall, giving the numbers, Stosic went 6-9 in terms of total takedowns. Ovince Saint Preux isn't known as this crazy offensive wrestler. Most of the time, he'll crack you, he'll take you down, or it ends up from some sort of clinch position. And Ovince Saint Preux isn't known as a guy that pushes a crazy pace either. He'll wait and bait and then try and counter you. He does a lot of neat things. He's a neat fighter to watch. And, inside baseball, I don't miss a lot of fights, but B, this is must-see TV for me when Ovince Saint Preux is fighting, because something crazy could certainly happen. That's why they have this in the co-main event. Maybe you're going to hear the comparisons that these guys fight somewhat similarly. I just worry about that takedown defense of Jamahal Hill. Now, I have to pay him a compliment. Training at a Murcielago MMA, and if you asked me about Murcielago MMA about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I would have said, what? They got a Michigan? With Daquan Townsend? What are you talking about? But Joaquin Buckley and Chaos Williams really putting that gym on the map these days. Jamahal Hill spending some time there training as well. So, hey, it can't hurt, especially coming off with some shine like those two definitely have. So, overall, really interesting fight. As far as those odds are concerned, Jamahal Hill opened a -135 favorite. He is now a -168 over on best fight odds. For OSP, he opened a +115. He's now at a +139. And the Tapology votes, people are split, Matt. Out of 715 total votes, 53% going Hill. His method of victory for those voters, 63% going with the win by knockout. For the voters that went with OSP, the remaining 47%, 53% saying he's going to win by submission. It's cut and dry, Matt, right? It's one or the other.
It is. Okay, every now and then I have a good feeling about a fight, and I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say it's a lock or anything. I have a good feeling about Jamahal Hill in this fight, solely because the techniques that he's great at throwing, OSP has proven in the past that he's not great at defending them. And the fact that Jamahal Hill is a southpaw fighting another southpaw, it is weird because we always talk about how orthodox fighters have trouble with southpaw fighters. Southpaw fighters themselves have trouble with southpaw fighters. It's just not a look that you see all that often. So it will be interesting to see both guys kind of fighting something that they're used to having the advantage in. I do see Jamahal Hill getting it done. I like his power shots down the middle. And with OSP, yes, he has the one-shot knockout potential. I can't take that away from him. And I'm not going to feel like an idiot if Jamahal Hill's doing really well and OSP head kicks him in the third round. That's going to happen in an OSP fight every now and then. But the fact that Jamahal Hill can stay disciplined if he wants to and not throw a crazy high volume if he is starting to land good power shots, or he can go into his more volume-oriented mode. I do worry about the ground game. OSP is going to have an advantage, especially with the submissions on the mat. But it's not like OSP is a very dangerous wrestler in his own right. He is a guy who's comfortable getting backed up to the cage, and he is starting to get into the Tyron Woodley level where, yes, he will let his hands throw when you do get him up against the cage, but OSP, that's just kind of his natural position at this point, where he gets behind those two black lines, he's not afraid to skirt around the cage, and against a guy like Jamahal Hill, that's going to force you to react constantly, and I don't really like you reacting a lot against such a young and talented prospect like Hill.
I agree with you, and Matt, I'm a really big Jamahal Hill guy, but I will differ in the pick, actually. I like Ovince Saint Preux in this fight because he's fought fighters somewhat similar to Jamahal Hill before. You did mention the fact that he does struggle against volume-heavy southpaws. Again, perfect example, Dominic Reyes. Was he the champion on that night he fought Jon Jones? Maybe, but after that, he certainly wasn't against Jan Blachowicz. But overall, he did beat Ovince Saint Preux at that game. He was very busy, and that's the way that you really have to beat Ovince Saint Preux. Keep it standing, keep it in the middle, and just try and volume strike with him because he's a guy that has a pretty monotone output. And we talk about that a lot with a lot of different fighters. If they stay on their bike, it's usually a good thing. But with Ovince Saint Preux, it's kind of the Uriah Hall effect of, all right, come on, let's go. And then when Uriah Hall's on, it's a Bavon Lewis type of finish. When Ovince Saint Preux's on, it's a finish like he had against Alonzo Menafield in his last fight. But I will point out the fact that the fight that he had before the weird Ben Rothwell one-off at heavyweight against Oleszejczuk, a super prospect, I guess, if you will, out of Poland, another southpaw. So it all depends on what you get now. Jamahal Hill isn't Olszewczuk, so I will say that. But in terms of facing a southpaw, it's a 50-50 type of thing. I do think it's a good litmus test. Again, we talked about that with different fighters on this card. The fact that you have Jordan Leavitt taking on Matt Wiman. Now, again, Matt Wyman's 37 too, but he's at a totally different point in his career than Ovince Saint Preux is. Saint Preux is still competitive with some good fighters in this division. It is a little early for Hill rather, but at least we get to kind of test the waters. Is he ready for the deep end or not? I just worry about him against a guy like Ovince Saint Preux. I worry about that ground game. Listen, the guys at Murcielago MMA have been knocking guys out flat for the last number of months. So Jamahal Hill could certainly go in there and do that. High on Jamahal Hill. I like those X factors that Ovince Saint Preux brings into this. I like the counter striking. I like the, basically we're Will Smith and Gemini Man standing across from each other. Maybe the older guy wins. And that X factor of having such a sneaky ground game, I do like Ovince Saint Preux in this fight.
Yeah, and again, I can't really disagree with much of what Craig said. It's just the hitability of OSP is always something that's going to concern me. And with Jamahal Hill, the straight shots down the middle as opposed to the big looping hooks of OSP. Yes, if OSP lands one of those big shots, you're going to go down. I don't care who you are. But the fact that Jamahal Hill can just get from point A to point B so much faster, I like Jamahal Hill. I'll even say by stoppage.
Matt, I'm going with the underdog here in Ovince Saint Preux, the old man at this point in the game. You're taking Jamahal Hill. Really looking forward to this card, and you're not going to want to miss our breakdown of the main event, new main event between Jack Hermansson, the Joker, taking on the Italian Dream, Marvin Vettori. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt, as we always say.
Let's get into it.